There are things you never expect to hear about yourself, especially from someone you've built a life with. I was in the kitchen that morning, grabbing a coffee before heading out, when I heard her voice drifting from the living room. She was on the phone with her sister, casual, laughing even. "I'm just using him until I get back on my feet," she said, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. My heart sank. My girlfriend, the woman I had supported through sleepless nights, covered rent for when she lost her job, believed in when no one else would, was saying out loud that I was nothing but a placeholder. Her sister asked something I couldn't quite catch, and she replied with a shrug in her voice. "He's nice enough, but I need stability. Once I'm ready, I'll figure out something better." It was like the air left the room. I stood there frozen, coffee cooling in my hands, my chest tight. It wasn't just the words, it was the way she said them. No hesitation, no shame. It's just pure calculation. I didn't storm in. I didn't confront her. Instead, I finished my coffee, set the mug in the sink, and left for work like nothing had happened. But my mind was already racing. By the time I pulled into the office parking lot, I knew exactly what I had to do. That afternoon, I came home early. She wasn't back yet, which gave me plenty of time. I grabbed her clothes, her shoes, her makeup, every last trace of her hand, packed them neatly into boxes. I lined them up by the door, stacked in a way that left no doubt this was intentional, not impulsive. On top of the boxes, I placed a folded note. I overheard everything. "Good luck getting back on your feet. You won't be doing it here." When she walked in hours later, grocery bag in hand, her expression was priceless. First confusion, then dawning horror as her eyes landed on the boxes. She dropped the bag, apples rolling across the floor, and picked up the note. Her face went pale. You heard me?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't yell. I just nodded, calm as stone, every word. She tried to backpedal instantly. It wasn't like that. I didn't mean it. You don't understand. I was just venting to my sister. But I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't sorry, she said. She was sorry she got caught. And that night, when she begged to sit down and talk about it, I realized something important. For once, I wasn't the one scrambling for her approval. The tables had turned. She followed me around the living room that night, clutching the note like it might dissolve in her hands if she held it tight enough. Her voice cracked as she spoke, and for once it wasn't because she was emotional, it was because she was cornered. "Please, you don't get it," she pleaded. I was stressed. My sister kept asking questions, and I just said things I didn't mean. You know me better than that. I sat on the couch, calm, watching her pace in front of me. I didn't interrupt. I wanted to hear every excuse, every attempt to twist her words into something less poisonous than what they were. Finally, I said, "You don't accidentally say you're using someone. That's not stress. It's honesty you only felt comfortable admitting when you thought I couldn't hear." She flinched at that, her face twisting as if I had struck her. No, it was just me venting. You've been so generous, and I was trying to explain that I don't want to feel dependent forever. I worded it wrong. Worded it wrong? I repeated, tilting my head. He said, "I'm using him until I get back on my feet." That's not bad wording. That's a declaration. Her lip trembled, and she sank onto the arm of the chair across from me. Okay, maybe I messed up, but everything I've done for you, everything we've shared, doesn't that count for something? Can't you look past this? It was almost funny in a dark way. The same woman who had casually dismissed me as a placeholder was now asking me to weigh her good moments against one devastating betrayal. "You want me to look past this?" I asked quietly. "Tell me if I told one of my friends I was just using you until something better came along. Could you look past it?" Her silence was louder than any answer she could have given. She shifted tactics, moving closer, reaching for my hand. "I didn't mean to hurt you. You know I love you. This doesn't change how I feel about you." I pulled my hand back before she could touch it. "It changes everything for me." Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't move to comfort her. I wasn't heartless, but I wasn't going to play the part of her safety net anymore. She had already told me, in her own words, that I was temporary. And now, standing in my living room with her bags packed at the door, she was realizing temporary had come sooner than she planned. She whispered, almost too low to hear, "So that's it? You're really done with me?" I looked at her, steady and certain, and said, "That's it." The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time, she didn't have an answer. The next morning, I expected her to come back calmer, maybe even ready to apologize for real. Instead, I woke up to a storm. My phone was buzzing with messages, mutual friends, even one of my cousins, all sending me variations of the same thing. What happened between you two? She's saying you kicked her out for no reason? No reason. That's what she'd reduced it to. She had wasted no time flipping the script, painting herself as the victim of my supposed impulsiveness. According to her, I had snapped one night, packed her things without warning, and cruelly tossed her out. She didn't mention the phone call to her sister. She didn't mention the words, "I'm just using him." She simply cast me as the cold-hearted villain. It might have worked if I hadn't been prepared. When one of our mutual friends, Dave, called me to get my side, I didn't rant. I didn't even sound angry, just asked calmly, "Do you really think I'd pack someone's bags for no reason at all?" There was a pause. Well, no. But that's what she said. She's leaving out the part where she admitted she was only with me to use me until she could do better. I said flatly. Silence on the other end. Then a quiet, "She actually said that." Word for word. I overheard the whole conversation with her sister. Dave exhaled slowly. "That actually sounds like her." And just like that, the seed of doubt was planted. By noon, I had already told the same truth to 3 more people. I didn't embellish, didn't dramatize, simply stated what I had heard. And the thing about the truth is, it doesn't need dressing up. It holds its own weight. By the end of the day, the tide had shifted. A friend of hers messaged me privately, saying, "She told me something different, but honestly, I believe you. She's been acting weird for weeks." Meanwhile, she doubled down. She texted me long paragraphs filled with rage and desperation, accusing me of turning people against her, of ruining her reputation. But the truth was, she was ruining herself. I didn't need to spread Liz. I didn't have to. Her own words were enough to unravel the carefully curated image she'd been clinging to. That night, she showed up at my door again, tears streaking her face, voice hoarse from crying. "Please," she begged, "just stop telling people what you think you heard. You're making it sound worse than it was." I looked her dead in the eye. "I'm not making it sound like anything. I'm just repeating your words." For the first time since this all began, she didn't argue. She just crumbled, standing in the doorway of the home she no longer belonged to. Realizing that lies couldn't save her anymore, the following day she changed strategies again. Gone was the anger, the defensiveness, the frantic messages. Instead, I opened my phone to find a long apology waiting for me. "I know I said something awful, and I can never take it back. But please believe me when I say I was scared. I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I've been under so much pressure, and I lashed out. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I don't want to lose you. Please, give me another chance to prove it." It almost read like a script. In fact, I could practically hear her rehearsing it in her head. A few hours later, she showed up again. This time, she didn't come empty-handed. She carried a photo album I hadn't seen in years, pictures of us from the beginning, all the smiles, the trips, the little handwritten notes we'd exchanged. She laid it on the coffee table like a lawyer presenting evidence. "Look at this," she said softly, her eyes glistening. "Look at everything we've been through. Can't tell me none of it was real." I glanced down at the photos. Yes, those moments had been real. The laughter had been real. Smiles. The nights we stayed up until sunrise talking about nothing and everything, they'd been real too. But the problem wasn't the past. The problem was what she'd revealed about the present. "You know what else was real?" I said quietly. "The words you chose when you thought I couldn't hear." Her face fell, and I could see the frustration bubbling beneath the surface. "Why can't you just forgive me? People say things they don't mean all the time." I shook my head. "That wasn't something you just blurt out. That was who you are when the mask slips." Her hands trembled as she shut the album and pushed it toward me. "I'll change. I'll do better. I'll prove I'm not that person. Just give me one more chance." But it wasn't about chances anymore. I had already given more than enough. I'd supported her through job after job, picked up the slack when she faltered, believed in her when no one else did. If after all that, she still saw me as a crutch to lean on until something better came along, then there was no future left to salvage. "I don't hate you," I told her finally. "What?" "But I can't respect you anymore. And without respect, there's nothing left. The words hit harder than any shouting match ever could. She sat there frozen, tears streaming down her cheeks, realizing that every trick and gore, denial, guilt, even nostalgia had failed. And for the first time, I think she finally understood that she wasn't in control anymore. By the next morning, I knew she wouldn't give up quietly. People had already started questioning her version of events, and she hated losing control. So she tried something else. Rallying support from her friends, hoping their loyalty could pressure me into forgiveness. Within hours, my phone was flooded with messages. Not from her this time, but from people in our shared social circles. "Daniel, she says you're being cruel. She's crying and doesn't know what to do. Can't you just talk to her? You don't understand what she's going through. Give her a break." I read each one carefully, then deleted them, calmly. I wasn't interested in an echo chamber or in being guilt-tripped by proxies. By noon, she showed up at my apartment again, accompanied by her best friend. Her friend didn't look pleased. She looked conflicted, like she hadn't signed up for the full drama. "Daniel, we just want to help," she said, voice tentative. Shook my head. "Help? You mean reinforce a lie? Because she's been telling people I kicked her out without cause? You're here to prop up her story, not to help." Her best friend opened her mouth to protest, but Rachel cut her off. "Daniel, stop being so dramatic. It's not a big deal. Everyone knows I didn't mean it. Just forgive me." I looked at them both and smiled faintly, a smile with no warmth. "It's not a big deal? You admitted to using me until you could get back on your feet? That's the deal you want to pretend doesn't exist?" Rachel's face flushed crimson. She stumbled over words, trying to recover, but her friend was shaking her head, clearly uncomfortable with how extreme Rachel had become. By mid-afternoon, I realized something beautiful. Her manipulation was unraveling because she was dragging others into a story that was collapsing under its own weight. The more she tried to control the narrative, the more everyone saw the truth. And then it happened. Her friend turned to Rachel and said bluntly, "You told him you were using him." "That's the story you told. I don't care what you say. Now he heard it. He's right to be done with you." Rachel's mouth opened, then closed. Words failed her. The last desperate hold she had, the support of someone who might have backed her up, crumbled in an instant. I stood quietly, letting her absorb it. The boxes by the door, the note on top, the truth finally hitting the room, everything spoke louder than any argument she could make. She realized she wasn't just facing me anymore. She was facing reality, and it was merciless. No excuses, no pleas, no manipulation could rewrite what she had said out loud in her own voice. By the time she left, the sun was setting. Her face was pale, her pride shattered, and for the first time she knew she had no one to blame but herself. I closed the door, took a deep breath, and felt the freedom I hadn't known in months. The lesson was clear. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. And some manipulations will always implode if you refuse to participate. By the evening, the apartment was quiet. Boxes still sat by the door, a silent monument to the truth she had tried so hard to hide. I poured myself a drink and leaned against the counter, thinking about the last week. It had been surreal, watching someone I cared about unravel in real time. The calm I felt wasn't about triumph, wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. I hadn't needed to yell, to fight, or to manipulate. I had simply let her words and actions speak for themselves, and in doing so, the truth had done the work for me. Her final desperate attempts had only confirmed what I already knew. Anyone who resorts to lies, manipulation, and emotional leverage to control a relationship doesn't want a partner. They want an accessory, someone to prop them up while they chase convenience and comfort. And I refused to be that person. As I scrolled through my phone, I saw the messages from friends I hadn't spoken to in months. They were supportive, genuinely concerned, but also impressed by the calm way I had handled everything. A few even admitted that hearing her side first had made them doubt me, but after I shared the truth, they understood my reputation wasn't damaged. It was unraveling. I thought about what she had tried to do, convince me to feel guilty, convince others to back her, convince herself that she hadn't crossed a line. And now she had to live with the consequences of her own words. Every apology, every plea, every dramatic display had been too little, too late. For the first time in a long while, I realized how much mental space she had occupied in my life. The worry, the anxiety, the constant second-guessing it, had all vanished. I felt lighter, freer, like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I didn't feel bitter. I felt empowered. Later that night, as the city lights flickered outside my window, I took a deep breath. There would be no more surprises, no more manipulations, no more pretending that love could exist where honesty was absent. I had learned something crucial. Respect is non-negotiable, and self-worth is a shield that no one should ever take away from you. The next morning, I went for a walk. The air was crisp, the streets quiet, and I felt like I was seeing the world in color for the first time. I thought about her, about the lessons she had inadvertently taught me. Some people are temporary, not because we fail to hold on, but because they fail to recognize the value of what they already have. As I turned the corner, I smiled. There was a new path ahead, untainted by deceit or manipulation. She had begged for a chance to explain herself, but I had already explained everything I needed to myself, to my friends, to anyone paying attention. And the truth was simple. I didn't need her approval anymore. I didn't need her love anymore. What I had regained, my clarity, my peace, my freedom, was worth far more than any apology she could ever offer. I stepped into the sunlight, knowing one thing for certain. Some doors once closed, stay closed. And some people, once revealed, are never coming back. If you've made it this far, go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.